but I'm gonna share my screen and kind of like go through um, the talk here. But let me share. One moment. So once I share my screen, we can get started. Okay. Ooh. All right. Excellent. So basically the purpose of the talk, I didn't create any like magical or wonderful slideshows, but the goal of the talk is basically how do you put your best foot forward when you're in a situation where you are a candidate. Now if you think about that, you look at it and you say, well, I'm not a candidate, I'm not looking for a job right now, or maybe you're fairly secure, you just started in your job and you're thinking like, what, this doesn't apply to me. But the whole idea is that really you're always a candidate, and you're always looking for whether it's that next job or that next opportunity or even a promotion or a raise or just being recognized for what you're doing. So that's why I kind of like arranged this so that it would be applicable to people that are actually on the job and need to be able to show what they're doing in a better light, or people that are on the job market and they're looking for a new job and they're trying to find a way to figure out how to best put themselves out there. So with that said, I'll kind of like get going on it. Sorry about the slides. I was going to make wonderful slides, but I decided I'll focus more on the content. But at the end of this, I think like the main thing that I want you to walk away from this talk is that when it's all said and done, you have to put yourself in the shoe of your employer, your boss, your manager, the hiring manager, the interviewer. You have to put yourself in their shoes in order to be able to really um, essentially get to your goal. You have to put their goals in the front of your mind first. And that's the one thing, like if you get nothing else from this, and you logged off right now, I would hope that you get at least that as a takeaway. The way that I'm going to do this is I'll go through sections and I'll stop and see if I can get some questions the um, from the chat. And if you have any questions in the chat, just put it up. But I won't be looking at it all the time, so I won't see anything you're typing until I kind of like step back to look at it, which will create a bit of a parallax effects on the screen. But just a quick heads up on that, a little bit of housekeeping. So really to look at it then, if you look at it as like to get to your goal, you have to help me reach my goal. Now, I'm saying that from the mindset of someone that's hiring somebody, right? Anytime you want to present something to someone else, you should be able to frame your presentation in terms of what that person is looking for and what they want. So to be able to get hired for the job you want or recognized for the job that you're doing, you have to be able to show that what you're doing applies to either what the company wants or what the person that you're interviewing for what they want. So that's kind of this. Like, and to be clear, these are my notes and I'm kind of going through it like that way. So the sections of this talk, I'm just going to start to go through it. So what we're going to cover is how do you put your best foot forward and how do you put yourself in the best light? How do you get out there and allow people to see the value that you're bringing and allow them to see that you know what you're talking about, allow them to see the things that you did and how you went about doing it, as well as the results that you got from that. And so that's how this whole talk is going to be structured. Now, I think I've iterated on this before, but I'll reiterate a little bit, is you're always a candidate. There's always someone looking at you. There's always someone evaluating you to see exactly what you can do for them. Now, this is in the terms of a job. So when, you put your resume out there or you're looking to get that new position, everyone will be evaluating you, whether it's like, looking for who to promote next, who to, give a more senior position, who to give a raise, whatever it is. Someone will always be looking and evaluating you based on the answers that you give them. So that's the mindset that this is coming from. I'm going to take a moment and check the channel really quick to see if anybody else is logged in. And then I'll come back and kind of like power through the rest of the talk and then open it up for questioning. Okay, excellent. I see us on doing more on here, and they've been the ones on. Guys, if you can do me one solid favor, though, if you see any chatter on the WhatsApp group or on the channel, kind of like help people to get on and get access to it. So moving forward, a little bit about me and why I'm giving this talk. So currently, I'm working as the manager of front-end technologies at a company called NGAIT Tech. And what they do is they do high-tech automation for oil drilling and rig automation. So kind of like give you the equivalent of that. It's like navigation, but instead of for cars, it's for drilling oil wells. So I'm managing a team in Dallas. I'm managing a team in Mexico, and over from 2017 to now, I've had to grow my team, including the team in Mexico, from just myself to a team of, I think right now it's 16 people. And so I pretty much spent all of last year screening for candidates, either looking at resumes, pre-screening them on the phone before they came in for the face-to-face interview, or actually going through the interviews and deciding whether I wanted to hire them or not for my team. So that's kind of the mindset that I'm coming from with this whole talk. That's the me aspect of it. The you aspect of it is you're a candidate, right? There's somebody evaluating you, whether it's, how you're going to keep up in the industry, how you're going to get a promotion, get a new job, get paid more, get more responsibility. Someone is evaluating you for something bigger and better. And the only way that you level up is to kind of position yourself to get selected for that next bigger, better thing. And that's the way that I'm framing this talk, is from my experience of having to go through so many candidates and realizing, one, the things that a lot of people are doing wrong when they're coming in, whether it's from their resumes, whether it's from the pre-screening, or whether it's from the actual face-to-face interview, the things that led to me not hiring them, and how you can do differently when you're being selected. But also, since I have a fairly new team, trying to decide who's going to be my lead and who's going to be the senior engineer and so on, I'm also still using these same evaluation tactics to kind of like see, who can get that job done? Who am I going to select for that? And so these things apply to whether you're already on the job or if you're just brand new. So really, I'm going to start this off with a very basic technique. If you've heard this before, forgive me, it's really rudimentary. But I'm going to then go through and cover how to kind of like boost this to get a better result out of it. So if you look at any interview, any question that someone is asking you, whether it's on a phone screen, even on your resume when you're writing it, you're basically trying to convey a few basic things, which is, what happened, what needed to be done, what did you do, and what was the outcome of it. So as long as you understand those basic questions and you answer those specifically, then you can quickly tell people what you can do, what kind of situations you've been in, and what kind of outcomes you've gotten in your previous positions or from your past experience. And that's been summed up for a lot of people that are doing, if you're prepping for interviews, you'll hear about people talking about the STAR technique or the STAR method or the STAR approach. And that's basically every question that you get asked, you listen really closely to find out what they're looking for in that question. And then you answer that question by giving them a little bit of background by stating the situation where you encountered that thing. And then you actually like list out the task, like what was needed, the reason for it, and then you go through the actions that you took, how you went about solving the problem. But then the additional step is, what was the outcome of your actions, right? Just taking actions is not enough. What was the result of it? What was the consequence of it? Can you quantify that? So if you did something that led to the company making more money, then this is where you would say that. If you did something that led to the company saving money, right? Start with money, then you do that. But it's called the STAR technique. And the STAR technique is basically like a quick way for you to mentally be able to answer any question at any time and phrase it in such a way that people get all the pieces that they need. You cover all your bases and you don't wander all over the place. So it's a little shortcut that allows you to be able to speak off the cuff. I know a lot of people are not necessarily comfortable public speaking, but there are little techniques that allow you to speak off the cuff without wandering all over the place, right? So the STAR technique is one of them. Another quick one is called PrEP. So it's basically a little mnemonic that allows you to know how to answer something. So PrEP, being an example here, is point, reason, example, and then point again. So if you ever had to do public speaking and you had to like make a point, then you make the point, say the reason, give an example, and make the point again. So it's the same thing with STAR. You state the situation, the task at hand, the action you took, and the result that you had. It's just something that you have to commit to memory and be able to do it. So using PrEP, I'll talk about the STAR technique here. So, well, what's the point? You need a good shortcut that's always in your belt so that when you're in an interview setting, you don't get uncomfortable, you don't get caught off guard. You just know it so much that you can fall back on it, even when you're nervous, and you can answer any question that someone throws at you. What's the reason? It helps you to cover all your bases. If you have like those things to make sure, I want to make sure I cover the situation, the task, the action, and the result, you'll never miss an essential information that would help someone get a fuller picture of what you accomplished in that kind of situation. An example of that would be, if you went to an interview, I know not everybody here does coding or stuff with SQL, but I'll use that as an example. If someone asks you, tell me about your experience with SQL, then what you do is you basically go through and say, okay, what was a situation that I had to use SQL? And I'll go through like something pretty basic. So when I was working on my senior project, one of the things that we had to do was we had to build a social media, like a little social media site, and present it as a final project. And to do that, we needed to persist the data for that. And so that was a situation. And so what I had to do was find a suitable database that I had to use, and I had to use MySQL for that. And so in the process, I had to learn SQL so that I could write the queries that I needed to store the information for the social media site that I was making. And then as a result of that, I got an A on the project, right? It's fairly simple. And so that's why you need to have a good shortcut for being able to go into any interview situation and always give the context as well as the action and the result that you took when people ask you in an interview situation what you did. Now, as you notice there, I didn't say, okay, situation was this, and my task was this, and my action was this. Because as you practice it more and more, you get more fluid with it, and you can just go in and say, well, you know what? At my last job, we had a situation where I said situation, but it's not forced, right? I didn't go situation first, but you know what? At my last job, they gave me an assignment where I needed to do something, and so I took these steps to do it. And as a result, the company got these benefits from it. Like that's a quick way to think of the STAR, like little acronym in your head to kind of like be able to move forward faster. Now, here's the thing. Most candidates, if they prep, they will learn the STAR technique, right? It's very basic. But what they miss is putting themselves in the shoes of the people that are trying to hire them. And so over my, 1 year of trying to like find candidates, I mean, candidates knew exactly what they wanted, what type of growth they were looking for, what type of salary they were looking for. But a lot of candidates could not even understand, what type of people was I looking for based on the type of team I was hiring. Because I would do the job of like explaining that to them so they don't put themselves in the shoes of the person. Now, for me, as an example, like my manager came in after me. And so I'm reporting to someone that's been at the company newer than me. So I'm like putting myself in their shoes. I look at it and I'm like, okay, well, they're gonna need a lot of background. They're gonna need to like catch up on, what's going on with the tech, the stack, the issues, the challenges that we're having. And I basically like made sure that I was helping them to get some of those gaps that they had bridged so that they could do their job better. And that's how, by approaching everything that I did as far as like what I presented to them based on what their problem was at the time. And sometimes I straight up ask them and say, what's the issue you're having? So by doing that, it helps me to help them solve their problem. And when you help people solve their problems, with like a positive attitude, looking at things from their perspective, then it helps them look at you like someone that can help them achieve their goals, which means, in short, if your goals are in alignment, then it will help you achieve your goals also. So if I was looking for a job and I say, what, if you hire me, I can help you achieve all your goals, then guess what? I'm going to hire that person if I believe that proposition, because really all I care about is achieving my goals in the first place. So looking at it then, my job as an interviewer or hiring manager, whatever, is to evaluate the person. And really there are three things that I use is, can they do the job? Will they do the job? And will they fit the team? And that's really it. Like a quick shortcut is I can screen somebody in 30 seconds. And if they could prove to me that they can do the job, they will do the job and they will fit in with the team, then I can evaluate and see, what, will I hire them and just keep them and let them lose to do the job? Or will I need to hire them and develop them so that they can do the job to the level that I want? And that's really any hiring manager is looking at it from the other side of the table. If you put yourself in their shoes from the other side of the table, that's what they're looking at is, based on the resume and what they're telling me, can they do the job? Do they have the capability, the experience, the skill? Will they do the job? Do they have the right attitude, the passion? Do they care about this stuff? Do they like doing it? And then will they fit in with the team? Like if you look at it, team fit, I've had people that came in and I knew they had the experience, but I have a team that's a mix of junior and senior people. And so, but they were so far up there and not able to communicate that I knew they would not be able to work with a junior person. And so I couldn't hire them, regardless of the fact that they were very skilled and they were rock stars, because they wouldn't fit the type of team I was building. So those are kind of like some of the things that you look at when you want to put yourself in the shoes of the person on the other side of the table. You pretty much just think about it. How do I show this person? How do I convey to this person that I can do the job? I will do the job and I will fit in with the team. I will fit in with the team, the organization, with them, you know? And how do I let them know if once they hire me on, they can just let me loose and I will get everything done? Or if they will need to work with me to develop me to the point where I do the job at the level that they're thinking about. I'm going to take a moment here and kind of take a sip of water, step back in the room and take a look and see if other people showed up. Okay, we still got two. Okay, I see Jerry also. Welcome. All right, going to jump back to the talk. So based on those things, if you look at it, the can do, can they do the job? This is where most people focus and they leave it at this, right? They focus on the skills. Like I know how to code something, or I know some programming language, or I've gotten some certification, or, depending on which side of the industry you're in, or I have experience in this, that, and that. Those things are all ways that you can convey if you can do the job or you have the skills or the resume or the experience, right? But those things speak for today, right? They speak for like as of this moment, you know what? Can you do this? Yes. But then nobody hires you for today. Everybody's hiring you for the future, right? If I hire you today, I'm hoping that you're going to be able to help me 2 years, 3 years from now to get all my goals that, because I know where I want to be 2, 3 years from now. So I'm hoping that you're going to be able to align with where I'm going so that 2, 3 years from now, you're still helping me to deliver. And that's why I'm hiring you. And that's why I'm paying you. That's why I'm promoting you. That's why I'm giving you that raise to retain you and keep you. And so if you look at it from that standpoint, the can do is what everybody does well. Yes, I know how to do this. I know how to do that. I have experience with X, Y, and Z. But that's the basics, right? If you go to the will do, now the will do is where it gets a little bit more complex because figuring out if someone will do something, right? And if they will do it well, and if they will do it with a positive attitude, all those kind of things, the will do is actually where the rubber meets the road because I've hired people that could do the job, but would show up at 10 o'clock and leave at 3 o'clock after taking 2 hour lunches. And it's like, all right, the skills and the experience did not matter. Like that person they were not willing to do the work. Apart from the fact that it wasn't a team fit, but we'll get to that. Well, when you're looking at the will do's aspect of it, you're evaluating more intangibles, right? What are their attitude, their willingness? How do you show up? Will you prepare? And this is where it's like how you prep for an interview, like how you do research on the company tells a lot. Will you listen? Like how you listen in the interview. If I'm saying something or I'm asking you a question and you're not even like listening or you're not digging in with probing questions to get a better understanding, it tells me a lot in that setting than anything else. Will you learn? Like, have you done a little bit? Like, read the company's about page before you walk into the interview. It takes 10 minutes. If you can't take 10 minutes before you come in for an interview, it says a lot about you. Will you help others? Will you adapt? Will you grow? Are you coachable? Right? These are some of the things. Will you be a positive effect of the team? Like if I'm in a room with you and it's just like good vibes, even if you're nervous, then I know that, that's your attitude, that's your energy, that's what you're bringing to the table. And I know that those are things that you will bring to the organization. And I mean, it's hard to judge how well someone is going to do from a 10-15 minute interview, but that's what you usually have to work with because you're also evaluating on skill and working through their resume and job history and everything else. Like you really get a small slice of time to evaluate on whether they will do the job. Now, team fit. Team fit is critical if you're having a mix of a team or if just kind of like what your organizational values are. In general, is very important, but people don't necessarily always look at it. But with a team fit, you're looking at not just the team, but the organization itself. And with you, like my management style is I tend to give people what the outcome is and then leave them alone, right? And then make myself available to coach them if they have issues. Like that's my preferred management style. But I got junior people that I can't do that. That's not my default style. But if I'm hiring a senior person, then I got to make sure that they know what it means to be an outcome focused person, or else it's not going to be a good fit with me. And that has nothing to do with the organization as a whole. And it has nothing to do with the team as a whole, but it's basically like that's my expectation of my senior guys. And so for them to fit, they have to have that mindset of like, when we're focused on an outcome, we go get that outcome. And that's like a part of the fit aspect of the conversation. Now, the best candidates, taking it back to the basics here, they use the STAR technique like all the time. Any question, any time you ask them a question, they basically listen, they understand it, and they go back to that situation, task, action, and result. And they don't even have to put it in that order, but they will usually cover all those things because it gives the person that's asking the question a full picture of what they need to know for that. Now, how do you do it better? Now, I know this is a little bit dense. You don't have to read this. These were more so notes for me, but I'm recording this. Hopefully, I can share it so people can see it if they weren't able to get in the room after the fact. But how do you do it better? Well, the way you do it better is you show it. Like showing is the way that you do it best. So if we're talking about coding, for example, then show me a project, or show me an article that you wrote that shows that you did a project. Show me a case study, right? Like people say, like demo or die. So find a way to demonstrate your skill, demonstrate that ability, like show that you're ready for the thing. And but I think the other thing that's like easier and better about this is that if you show me the will do aspect of it, it makes it a little bit easier. Because if you look at it, when you're thinking about the star story, right? I talked about the specific case of like MySQL and doing a project in college, which I think I kind of made up. I mixed a little bit of a truth to make an example home, to drive the example home. But if you look at when you're telling your star story, the way that you do is if you weave in components of your attitude, your willingness to learn, like how you volunteer, how you go above and beyond into your story, into that star template, then what it does is it allows you to show people how you've demonstrated willingness in a different setting. So back to that story of like, what, we had this project and it was a senior project and we had to do a presentation and I had to learn SQL for it. Right now, if you wanted to demonstrate that you are willing to take responsibility and go above and beyond, then what you would do in that story is, what, we had this college project and I had to, we had a group and that group had to learn SQL and do this. I was assigned with building the application and we had someone else assigned to doing the database. And we found out the weekend before the presentation, like it was on Saturday, the presentation was due on Monday. We found out that, what, that person did not do any of the database part of it. And I had to learn SQL over the weekend, build a database, and we were able to get the project done. And we still got an A in the group, right? What that does is, in a very non-bragging way, it tells the person that, what, you've been in a situation where something didn't go according to plan. You had to step up. You had to do it in a time crunch, and you didn't badmouth the person. You just went about going to get the result and you got it done. So that's how you weave your willingness into your star story, and it allows you to kind of like show just beyond the skill and your experience what you're like in a job setting, right? But the other thing is like the team fit part of this is you have to make sure that you are being yourself in that setting. Like you have to absolutely be yourself, because if you're not being yourself in the setting that you're in, then I can't tell if you're the right person for the job. So as an example, the senior guy that I mentioned earlier that came in, and we were just speaking high level like two senior people, and then I brought some of the junior guys in for a round in the interview. And the feedback that I got from the junior guys was like, I don't know what he can do, or like I couldn't figure it out. I have no idea if he knows what he's talking about or not. Right? So they weren't able to come down from that level of exchange that we had, where it's like I have like 18 years plus in a corporate setting. So it's like I can sift through the lingo and the stack and the old technology and the new technology and all those things to be able to say, okay, based on all the things that this guy's saying, he knows what he's doing, right? But for the new guys that have been, let's say, working for 2 years, if the guy goes into it like a deep dive about something that he did 10 years ago, it goes completely over their head. And if he's not able to reconnect that to what's happening today and what needs to be done in this particular setting, then there is no way that they could possibly have understood that he knew what he was talking about. And I ended up not hiring the guy because I was like, he's just not going to fit here, because that's going to mean that anytime that something needs to happen between him and the rest of the team, I'm going to have to translate that, because it's your interview. You're supposed to put your best foot forward. And if you find out that they're junior guys interviewing you, then your best foot forward is to express it to them in a way that they can understand. So being yourself might disqualify you for the position, but it helps you to end up in a team where you'll fit better. So recap of the whole talk. You know what? Before I do the recap, I'm going to step back into the group here and also kind of like open it up for questioning. So if you have any questions, kind of start typing it in the chat. But I'm going to step back and check if any other people showed up. And take a drink of water. Okay. All right, I'm going to do the recap. As I'm doing the recap, if you have any questions, then please do type it in the chat. So recap, what we covered. I think the first thing to take and always keep in mind is you're always being evaluated, right? Can you do the job? Will you do the job? And are you a good fit? And I think this is something that, people get the job and they forget that this is happening, because I don't sit down and pull people on my team and say, hey, I'm interviewing you to see if I can give you more responsibilities or if you're ready for a bigger opportunity. Sometimes I do, but for the most part, on a day-to-day basis, everything leads me to evaluate, can they do more? Will they do more? Are they going to be a fit in that new position? And so as long as I'm keeping my eyes on the future, I'm always evaluating for that. And in most jobs, in most settings, everywhere, people are always evaluating, what can you do? What will you do? And will you fit? And so put yourself in the other person's shoe and you'll be able to get to your goals faster. Because if you know what I'm evaluating you for, and if you know what the challenges are that I'm facing, then you're able to better position yourself and weave that star in such a way that it helps me to see that, you can do more. But the other thing is, cover the STAR technique. The basic way is you just go straight to your skill. You cover the situation, the task, the action you took, and the result. But the augmented way is to also weave your willingness into it. Weave the story into it that allows you to show that, you were willing to do more. You were able to learn more. You were able to rapidly handle situations that came up. And you could even weave in things that allow you to show team fit as well. So, if you like a certain kind of work environment, then you can weave that in as well. But it really allows you to not only cover your skills, but boost that with, will you do it and will you fit? Now, why does all this matter? Really, the heart of this, and the reason that I decided to go with this, because I was going to do a talk about just having a positive attitude and how it gets you far, but you need a shortcut that allows you to answer things quickly. Like, you need something that allows you to walk into any situation and be confident that if all else fails, you have a tool in your pocket that allows you to quickly use that as your fallback. And most people don't understand that, because they think it's like, oh, someone is really good at public speaking. Like, no, not really. I could walk into any room and speak publicly on any subject because I can do prep. Like, that little point, reason, example, and point, I can use that for anything, right? So putting yourself in the other person's shoe is important, because if you align your goals with theirs, you will get to your goals faster, right? The reason is because people are interested in their own objectives, not yours. They're interested in theirs first, right? As an example, when I'm hiring somebody, I'm hiring them for what they can do for me to get my team to where they need to be and the organization to where they need to be, not because I'm trying to give out jobs and pay money. And that's why you always have to put yourself in the shoes of the other person in order to get to your goal faster, because that's the shortcut. That's the only shortcut, right? So I just use prepped again to kind of like reiterate the point here. But the reason it matters is because you can relax when you go into a setting, right? I use prep all the time. And so I can relax in a public setting, in a public speaking situation. But if you kind of learn the STAR technique and you get it in your pocket such that you can do it for any question someone asks you, then you can relax in an interview setting and really make it all about what you're there to do, which is to find out if you're a good fit for them and for them to find out if they're a good fit for you. I probably said that backwards, but you get the idea. So think of it that way. Make it your weapon, right? Ninjas, that's the goal. I think in tech, everybody wants to be a ninja, or maybe that's just the developers. But you want to be a whiz kid, you want to be a ninja, and the favorite weapon of the ninja is the star. So now what I would say as a takeaway from this, get an inventory of things you've done, right? So look at your resumes, get an inventory of the gaps in your skills, your strengths, your weaknesses, and then start to kind of like prep a little bit and think about, how do you find the situations and the tasks and the results that you got so that you can kind of like cover for any weaknesses or any gaps, but also show your strengths and give people a fuller, better picture of your resume and kind of bring it to life, right? And think about it as far as like how it would affect the person hiring you, or how it would affect your manager, or how it would affect the person that's trying to bring you on or trying to take you to that next level. And think of some stories that cover it from their perspective, right? Within the context of their goal. Like, how does me doing this help you achieve what you want to do? And I know I'm going to get cheesy with this, but the next time you're in an interview or your boss gives you an opportunity to shine, then, reach for your star. That's pretty much it. So I'm going to jump back to the room and see if there are any questions. And if there are, I will address them one by one. And I'll probably stop sharing my screen to make it a little bit easier so you're not stuck looking at the parallax. Okay, so all right. So some of the questions that came in. The first question here was by Jerry. He says, "Do you involve your team in all your interviews?" Usually, I do. Not everybody, but I usually make sure that I have at least one or two representative from the team, because like my team is larger now, so I can't have everyone meet everyone. But I usually try to make sure for some of those things that I'm evaluating for, like being able to work with junior people and being able to convey information to them. So I'll maybe bring a junior person with me to the interview to see how they're able to communicate in a room where they have to talk to me and talk to that person that only has like a year of experience. And so in general, I involve the team, but not the entire team in all the interviews. The decision is ultimately mine, but I try to involve them and get the buy-in as well. The next question here is from Mo. Jerry, if you have any follow-up, then please, you can type it away. Next question here is from Mo. He says, of the three, which is the most important? Capability, willingness, or team fit? Honestly, I would say it depends on the job, but at the heart of it, I would say capability is the one that most people look at, but willingness is actually the one that I look at first. Because given the right amount of time and a motivated candidate that is willing to learn and grow, I can get them up to speed on the capability if I'm not in a time crunch for that. And you can coach someone to do the job and you can coach someone to work better with a team. But if they're not willing to work with you, or if they're not willing to even learn and grow, then it doesn't work out. But that said, that's what I would say a manager or a hiring manager or a boss that's trying to like grow a team beyond just hired guns. If someone is trying to grow an organization, then they're always going to look at the willingness factor. But the capability is kind of like your starting ground. So if you take two people that are coming in off the street and they're both willing, then I'm going to take someone that's more capable. All things being equal, then capability is your thing that puts you over. But most people will actually like fall short on willingness, because you should be doing everything you can to make sure that you have all your skills, your experience, and your ducks in a row. And the willingness is what puts you over the top. I'll move on to Mo's next question here, which is, do you evaluate how your team will react to an internal promotion? I do, a lot, actually. I think that's probably one of the more difficult ones, because I have people that are currently, I'm actually dealing with a situation where it's like I have people that are very capable, but they're not very coachable, which means like if I promoted them today, they would do well at the level that they're at today, but their growth potential is not there. But then I have people that are not at the same skill level, but they're growing faster, which means if you look 6 months down the road, that person that is growing will outpace the person that is currently highly skilled or seemingly highly skilled because of their growth trajectory. So I'd much rather like hire up that person and coach them into a position where they're doing that as they keep growing, than to take someone that is skilled today but has stagnated and more or less like you can run into like kind of a know-it-all situation where they are stuck and thinking that they know everything. And so I tend to evaluate that and see how people will handle it, but I also end up having to have conversations with people and kind of get buy-in and have people understand, what, this person being promoted doesn't necessarily like affect your growth potential, but ultimately it's my decision. So I usually keep that in mind, and sometimes I just make the right decision for the team and the organization based on the information I have, and then deal with the fallout probably a little bit preemptively or afterwards. Um, any other thoughts, questions? Okay. Hopefully, if you're still in the room there, if you can type, if you kind of got any kind of value from this, just to make sure people are still on here and I'm not tuning out and running out of the room. And then after that, I'll pretty much wrap up. I'll give it a kind of like a few seconds to take a drink of water here. Okay, I see Mo said he got some value from it. Thanks, I'm glad you did. So I think that's pretty much it on my end. So if there are no other questions, I'll kind of wrap up. Thank you guys for taking the time. I know it wasn't fancy slideshows, but I think I covered the essential information, and kind of the mindset was really coming from having to evaluate so many people and hire so much last year. I just got to the point where I realized that the bulk of it is a mental shortcut that leads to seeing if people can do the job and if they're willing to do the job and if they'll fit the team. So thanks for taking the time. I appreciate you guys taking your Sunday to be with me and deal with the technical issues early on. But I'll see you guys on the WhatsApp channel. All right, later. Signing off now.